All right, let's go to this story now. The Constitutional Court has just dismissed the public sector wage union's appeal against government's failure to fulfill a 2018 collective bargaining agreement. For reaction to this, we're joined by Cosatu's first Deputy President Mike Shingange. He's also Nehawu President. Thank you very much, Mr. Shingange, for your time here on All Angles. Your reaction, of course, to this unanimous ruling by the Constitutional Court.
Well, thanks for having us, and good morning to your viewers. Now, of course, we are disappointed that the court did not rule in the favor of workers, but we think that the court has done its part in their job, but the matter doesn't disappear because this is a matter of mutual agreement between two parties. The fact that workers were made to believe that they've entered into a legal agreement with their employer, something that they've done over the years, and all of a sudden the employer decided to subject this thing for legal scrutiny. It's as if the workers were actually tricked into signing this agreement because it's not their fault that they entered into this agreement, that the court later will find it to be unlawful. So the matter doesn't disappear. The fact that the employer owes its employees doesn't go away. The fact that the relationship between the employer, the state as an employer, and its unions as employees is now irrevocably broken down. It's going to make the next round of negotiations very difficult. It's a matter that the court will not have to entertain, but the employer and the workers themselves.
Now, the court sided with government in terms of, stipulating things such as finances, saying government told the truth when it said that it had no money, to give to employees who want more. They spoke about what the former finance minister, Tito Mboweni, said in terms of the budget base, going over by 30.2 billion rand because despite our problems because of the pandemic, our financial problems in the country, they still implemented their promise back in the financial year 2019 to 2020. So what do you say in terms of the court, exonerating what government was saying in terms of them saying they don't have the money?
Look, maybe let's start here that it's too early to go into all the aspects and the basis for the judgment or the ruling. But let's just deal with the facts as you're presenting them here. The issue of the state having money or no money, it's not an issue for us because there was an agreement. The issue for us is that if you do not have money, you don't go to court, you renegotiate. That's our contention. You don't go to court and want the fact that you don't have money, therefore must invalidate an agreement. Because yourself, you owe people. When you owe people, when you are unable to pay, you don't go to court and ask court to allow you to walk away from the agreement. So that's the one part that we don't think that it makes sense. But secondly, the agreement was implemented in 2018 and in 2019, not in 2019 and 2020. In 2020, there was no increment. That's when they reneged on it. And there was no COVID when they started to renege on it. So at the time when they realized they did not have money, they should have come back to the bargaining council and say, how is it that they're going to renegotiate the repayment? So our view is that this was budgeted. When we agreed to sign, there was no issue about the employer saying they don't have the money. Otherwise, they will not have signed. They will not have signed at that time. So, like I'm saying, many of the aspects of the judgment will still have to grapple with as we go forward, because once that agreement is declared invalid, it means for that year, for that period, which the parties were believed to be having an agreement, there was no agreement. It means there was no negotiations. It means, therefore, parties reserve the right to renegotiate. But it complicated the next round of negotiations that are going to take place. So that I'm saying, this matter doesn't make it easy for the state that it will walk away like that because the court agreed with them about them not having money.
All right, I hear you. So basically you're saying that you'll leave it to the courts. The courts have made a decision, but in the next round of negotiations, obviously your members will want a lot more than they would have gotten because of the fact that in 2020, government actually regurgitated on its agreement with you. But I want to ask you, Mr. Shingange, what does this mean then in terms of Nehawu and Cosatu's support to the tripartite alliance? I know that your fight was with government, but those government officials, some of them are within the tripartite alliance. What does it mean, especially with this important elective year, going to conference, etc.? You have threatened before that you will not vote for the ANC or not help them campaign, etc. What does it mean now that this has happened today?
I will always ask media to ask political questions when we discuss political issues. When we discuss collective bargaining, and employer-employee relationships, I will always refrain from conflating the two issues because the lines are clearly drawn. We're talking to the employer here. We're talking the matter that's emanate from the bargaining council. Not everybody in the bargaining council is a member of the Tripartite Alliance. So all of us are employees of the state, employed by the state. And here we are just coming from court, which had no consideration about the Tripartite Alliance. So ourselves, when we deal with the state as an employer with this matter, there's no consideration whatsoever of the Tripartite Alliance relations on these matters. Because if they were important, the ruling party that they are leading the state will have considered this part. The fact that they decided to take it to court, it means they know these are not the matters to be resolved by the Tripartite Alliance. So that's where we are.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Shingange. I just thought I could get that in there, although I know we shouldn't blur the lines. I thought I'd be able to just sneak that question up on you. But, of course, we'll be speaking to you during the course of the week because I believe you want to first apply your mind on the judgment. It's only been about 15 or 30 minutes. Thank you very much. That was Cosatu's first Deputy President, Mike Shingange. He's also Nehawu's president.